Fit Journey Life, where we explore wellness across cultures. I'm your host, Olena Steinmetz, and on this podcast, we sit down with fitness professionals, yoga teachers, therapists, and health and wellness professionals all around the world to help uncover culture, movement, nutrition, and mindset, and how they shape the way we live and train. So let's begin our journey. Today, I have my dear friend, Amber. Let me see, Amber Izquierdo. Did I?
Izquierdo,
Izquierdo.
izquierdo. Uh-huh.
Amber Izquierdo. Thank you. And Amber, I want to start. I actually have your bio that you've shared before. So I just want to start with reading your bio. And
Okay.
okay, so for the past 17 years, Amber has embraced the transformative philosophy of yoga to heal and reshape life, finding solace from PTSD through its practices. Her journey began as a personal quest for healing, but it's quickly evolved into a passionate commitment to helping others navigate their own challenges. Amber has dedicated over 13 years to teaching yoga, expanding her expertise through various trainings in yoga, meditation, Reiki, and the mind-body connection. Her classes, workshops, and teacher training sessions empower individuals to harness their inner strength and reclaim control over their lives. As a military spouse and a mother of three, Amber lives the yogic lifestyle daily, balancing her responsibilities while inspiring those around her. I do want to mention that she is also is original founder of the nonprofit Radiant Heroes Foundation, and she has helped us to grow it in the past year and a half. Amber's mission is to illuminate the path of healing and empowerment for everyone she encounters, fostering resilience and hope through the art of yoga. So, welcome, Amber.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. So, as we explore today your incredible journey to discovering yoga, how it became your path, your journey, healing from PTSD, and also deep wisdom that you carry, and is offering to share with us. We will also touch bases on the specific, unique experiences that for navigating military marriage and family, and also just I hope to hold, although we have some questions that I'd like to ask you, I hope to hold just heart-to-heart conversation to learn more about you.
Okay. That sounds wonderful.
All right, so tell us about yourself. Who are you, and how did yoga come into your life?
So the question of who am I think is a loaded question because I think a lot of us tend to identify ourselves with whatever label we have chosen to give ourselves, whether it be I am a mom or I am a yoga teacher or I am a teacher or things like that are from my perspectives just roles that we play. So above all else, I had someone ask me this just recently too, saying, "Who are you?" And I said, "I am a feeler. I am a teacher. I am a student, a forever student." But yoga came into my life. Now it's been almost 19 years that I've been practicing. Yoga came into my life through PTSD because I had at the time a therapist who I was adamant about telling her that I did not want medication for my panic attacks. And after a year's worth of therapy with her, seeing her once a week for a year, she said, "If you're still refusing to take medication, I don't know what else I could do for you." And so that definitely lit a fire under me because I felt like she was turning her back on me in a way, and I didn't appreciate it. But I did leave there for my very last appointment with her. And I went to a bookstore and I found a book on natural ways to relieve anxiety and depression. And within that book actually mentioned meditation. So I started meditating before I started physically practicing asana within yoga. Um, and then I bought another book on meditation specifically, and then that opened me up to yoga, to the physical practice of yoga, as most of us are familiar with.
Okay. And so that sounds like that was at the very, like a single defining moment in your life that led you to discovering yoga, first through meditation and then to discover the whole, what yoga is as a whole practice, like the whole person practice. So um, can you share about your life before yoga?
So before yoga, I was actually a cosmetology instructor. And I was working anything I do, I don't do it just halfway. If I'm going to do something, I commit and I do it all the way. So when I was in cosmetology school, I said, you know, I don't want to just do hair and makeup. I want to teach other people how to do hair and makeup. So I continued staying in school for the extra hours to become the cosmetology instructor.
Mhm.
That then, with all the moves that we have done, you know, being a military spouse, I began just doing hair out of my house, and I had a salon set up in my house. And that's really where I was in my very young adult life of like early 20s. And it was shortly after that that I think I just kind of burnt myself out. And I had already been practicing yoga. I had already been familiar with what yoga was on a very minimal perspective. Um, and I just kind of I wanted more. I just, as a cosmetologist, you know, you're receiving a lot of baggage from people,
Yeah.
and there were a lot of different sides of people that I seen, and I didn't feel like from behind the chair I was in a perspective to plant those subconscious seeds within their minds to help them evolve past, you know, because that's when you're a cosmetologist or you're doing someone's hair, it's kind of like you have that boundary there. Like that's not what you're there for. You're there to do their hair and that's it.
Mhm.
But I wanted more depth from life, and I knew how transformative yoga had been for me, and I thought, I think I really want to use this to learn more about this and how this helps.
And so, since that surface level introduction to yoga, how I have, I'm also following your journey, have followed, I know how dedicated you are. And so, can you tell us a little bit about how it evolved, the lessons that you have learned on your journey? And also where you are today in your yoga practice, but just speaking about that journey.
Yeah, it's funny. The journey actually started with some DVDs, you know, back in the DVD days. And I had some yoga DVDs by Shelley McDonald, and they were very fitness oriented, so very much about just working out with yoga. It wasn't until I completed my first 200-hour teacher training that I'm very thankful for. It was a 200-hour teacher training with Rolf Gates,
Okay.
and it was one-on-one Zoom calls that he and I were doing every month. And his requirements were very extensive for the physical and the mental. I had to practice 3 times a day, the physical asana of it. And then I had multiple books that I had to read and papers that I had to write. And then I had to present these papers to him. So he made sure that I understood what it was that I was writing. And that just really opened me up to this whole world of, and I know it's a cliche, but you see the memes of the iceberg, right? And like the tip of the iceberg is what we see in yoga, but the real yoga is underneath the iceberg. And that is, it doesn't even do it justice to
Yeah.
what yoga even is or what it was intended to be. So that 200-hour teacher training really got me thinking and realizing about how there is something here to the mind-body connection
Hmm.
because I have noticed within myself I no longer had panic attacks and I no longer was having flashbacks and I no longer was waking up in the middle of the night from night terrors. I still had like the clenching of the jaw and the holding tension in my body without realizing it. But those big things that that therapist once upon a time told me I needed medication for, and this is not to say anyone should or should not be on medication, but for me personally, I got to experience what that felt like, a life without that anxiety.
Hmm.
And I just was blown away by it. And I knew that there was something here, that there was something within this.
And do you remember that first moment of when you have felt that you have acknowledged and realized that, oh, I do not have a panic attack, or they have reduced or minimized? And
So I don't believe that there was like one specific incident, but I do remember I was practicing a lot physically and I was reading a lot mentally. And I just remember after about like 6 months into the teacher training, I felt lighter. Like I always had kind of been living life, like there was this dark cloud always following me. And I just about 6 months into it, I just realized that my walking felt lighter, that I noticed I was smiling more. I noticed that I was making different decisions when it comes to my diet and what I'm putting in my body. I noticed that I didn't want to talk as much about like other people and things like that, like what they're doing with their lives. Like I didn't care about any of that. It's like it just took me to a place beyond suffering and really showed me that there is such a place that can be achievable to anybody.
so, thank you. That is very helpful. I'm trying because I also know that when we had conversations in the past, that you have stressed on practices that I have mentioned physical practices when it comes to trauma, right? Just knowing that trauma is stored in our body. So, really, it's like from what I may word it differently, but I stretching the body, like really going into those stretching to help release. So, can you just speak more about on again on your philosophy when it comes to physical?
Yes, yes. So the fascia within the tissue within our muscles stores all of our experiences, whether good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful. It stores everything. So a lot of my personal issues was that my mind thought that I was fine. My
Mhm.
body was not. And I didn't realize at that time that it was because my mind had processed a lot and healed a lot and resorted out all of those memories in an organized manner, but my body was still holding on to it all.
Mhm.
And so when you are physically practicing yoga, it is forcing you to open up your body and bring that prana or chi, some people like to call it as well, just that vital life force. It forces you to bring that life force into places of your body that have otherwise been closed off.
Mhm.
And so when you do that, and at the end of a physical practice, when you take your shavasana, there's a reason why you are to lay completely still. And it's because that is your time to decompress. That is your time to take all of that energy that you have now shaken up within your physical body and you let it all go.
Mhm.
And that was something that I never knew. I never understood that there was such a method. I just, I had always I tend to be a very fiery person. So I had always tended to just carrying this fire. And I just thought that, I had some anger and I had some rage and things like that. And it wasn't until I started that physical practice that was very in depth that I realized, wait a minute, I'm lighter after this.
Yeah. I think I can relate somewhat when we speak of the cognitive counseling, like on a cognitive level, um, to when I had my therapy, I have also felt that like what you mentioned, like the healing was happening in the mind, but the body was reliving and feeling it, and it was so interesting. Just well, now reflecting back of how strong those emotions were when they would come in,
Hmm.
and and then the mind would engage, and then I didn't understand. I was like, what is going on? I have for personally, what was helpful was the yoga practice that for me kind of helped with the healing was um, the eye movement, the desensitization,
The EMDR.
EMDR.
Hmm.
And so that was just very because it helped me, like it really hit the spot when you mentioned that disconnect of what is happening between mind and the body. Because with that specific practice, it really helped me from a safe place also to relive it in my body. And it makes sense now to when I continue to practice, I just feel that it's almost like I allowed myself to connect back mind and the body through that practice to now when I continue with my yoga practice, I feel it's moving through holistically to, but I couldn't understand at the time why this was happening to me. So I think it hit the spot when you have mentioned the how the mind was healing and the body was feeling everything still.
Yes, yes. It's that disconnect that really causes that dis-ease in our bodies and in our minds. And so yoga being union, meaning union, to yoke is to unionize.
Yeah.
It really helps to bring mind, body, breath back on one page.
That it makes perfect sense right now. So that's what's I really appreciate just understanding this now better. And how can you share about your yoga practice? How do you use yoga in your daily life?
So yoga is a term for multiple practices. Okay,
Mhm.
so we tend to think that yoga is just what we're doing physically on the mat, and
Yeah.
that is not the case. Yoga is how we are carrying our bodies, how we walk, our posture, it's how we breathe, it's what we choose to eat or not eat, it's everything we choose to put in our bodies, whether physically or mentally or emotionally, who we choose to associate with, it's the priorities, like the choices that we make in our lives. So, when it comes to how I personally incorporate yoga in my life, there's just select things that I will not do, certain things that I have to do. Like I do not drink, I do not smoke. I'm not going to say I don't indulge every now and then in sugary sweet goodness because I definitely do. But I try to tap within my body and listen to what my body's telling me it needs rather than just, especially here in America, we tend to just like eat and eat and eat, and our portion sizes are huge. And I always say like because my husband is a foodie and he loves his food, and I always just say I eat for survival. I don't eat for enjoyment. I eat off of what my body's telling me it needs at that time. But even down to dry brushing, down to using Nastia nose oil for my sinuses, using the sesame seed oil Abhyanga for my scalp and my hair. But then the physical practice and making sure that not only that I'm taking time for meditation, but I'm taking time to study and not just study myself, but I study the scriptures. I study not even just the scriptures, but I study everything. Like reading everything, learning anything I can learn, because that just helps me understand people and this life that we're all in.
Helps us understand the world around us as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. That is quite insightful. Um, when if you when you meet people who are living with PTSD, think about those people who are living with PTSD right now and who are trying to find a way to heal. Like what it could be it could be a space that it's a vulnerable place to be in. And when you are in that situation, it feels like you do not have a way out, and maybe you have tried many things and it's still you're reliving and re-experiencing. So what would you tell those people who are in this moment struggling with the symptoms?
Hmm. I think the biggest thing, first off, that I think I would tell people who are living with PTSD and struggling and or thriving with it, is I see you, and it's hard. It's very hard. And a lot of people make choices based off of, make a permanent choice off of a temporary
Yeah.
emotion. And that's one thing I think I wish more people understood, is that no matter what you're going through, it's temporary. I know PTSD does have its long run like effects. A lot of people, you know, play that whole narrative of like you're going to have this forever. I know a lot of doctors and the psychologists and whatnot like to say that you're, once you have it, you got it forever. Um, but that doesn't mean the symptoms of it are forever. It's temporary. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And just because you have not found your way yet does not mean you won't. But I also have the mindset where I'm a digger. So I tend to dig into things and into the bottom of things until I find the absolute root of anything and everything. So if whatever you've been doing is not working, don't keep doing it. Try something else. And oftentimes it gets worse before it gets better, because I will be the first to say that when my yoga practice first started, I say that I had the transformation about 6 months in because of the fact that before that 6 months,
Mhm.
it was a nightmare. It in all transparency, I had endless days that I just fell to my mat and cried, and just it shows you the raw sides of yourself that you have been trying to ignore. And sometimes those sides are not so pretty. So
Yes.
you really see yourself for who you are, and you see yourself for who you were conditioned to be.
Mhm.
And when that shines in your face and you can't run from it, it's scary. And it can be very fearful of if there's even hope for you, of feeling as though, well, what's the point in this if this is who I am? But that doesn't mean you can't evolve. We all have the ability to evolve. We all are entitled to healing and growing in this life. So it is hard and it takes time, but consistency is key for sure. If you fall off the horse, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up over it. Get back on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Be consistent and continue to search and try it for the time being. And if it doesn't work, look for something else to either complement the practice or perhaps change completely the way you approach it. And I can also like I felt that relation to when you spoke, Amber, of the time to when you were trying yoga practice to help you heal. And then it becomes like what you said, becomes worse before it
Hmm.
gets better. Because when you are uncovering those layers within yourself and it's really raw and you are feeling and reliving and experiencing, it can feel unbearable. So, how do you, during those moments, how did you learn to give yourself space to revisit it again, perhaps next time? Did you utilize some techniques or something that was helpful for you to take an edge off and then come back again and keep working with yourself?
Hmm. So one thing I will say is I have 3 kids, and all 3 of my kids, I've had postpartum depression after all of them. A lot of us who are, you know, our upbringing is under trying circumstances and we become these adults with PTSD, especially if you're a woman, chances are you will have postpartum depression. Like the statistics are already higher for people who come from a traumatic upbringing for postpartum depression.
Mhm.
And so I have had many times of falling off track, of it's like a nagging at you. Like you know what you should be doing, but you don't have the energy to do it, or you're just feeling defeated, so you don't do it. Like you I have many times where I went a whole year without stepping foot on my mat, with eating like crap, with not sleeping well, with just doom scrolling social media. Like I have had a whole year like that. But at the end of the day, there's always this nagging in me of like, you have been here before. You
Mhm.
know what worked last time. Do it again. And it's just, but sometimes you just don't have that energy to do it. And so I can say the last time that I have fallen off the horse was after my last child was born, and the postpartum depression was really bad. And I actually got to the point where I had to let my husband know that I was not in a good place and I was scared. And this was the first time I had ever let him into my psyche, my world. And I let him know that I was scared. And he was just responding with, like, it's okay, it'll be okay. But I always had that thought of, if you surrender, you've just allowed everybody before you that caused this suffering to win. And I fight through everything, like to a fault, even because of my nervous system sometimes is like, stop fighting, like just rest, just let yourself feel. But anytime I've fallen off the horse, my method is always go in, throw yourself into the deep end. And so when that happened, I had just had a baby, and I had two other young kids, and I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning so that I can just go outside and do yoga. And I just did it and cried and did it and cried and did it and cried and fell to pieces, because you always then remember, I used to be like this, or I used to be peaceful, or I used to be happy all the time, or my body used to be strong and now I'm not. And yes, that's life. Healing is not linear. It
Mhm.
is, you're constantly circling back to things that you had thought you overcame.
Mhm.
And that's okay. That's just part of it. It's part of the process. And so I just throw myself back into the deep end. I start waking up at 5 a.m. every day. I will practice for an hour of asana, and then I'll take an hour of meditation, either together back to back, or I'll wait until later on in the day and do an hour of meditation. And I don't really give myself grace when that happens, because I'm just like, no, it's like you become in the mindset of fighting for your life. And if I don't do this, I don't know what else is going to happen. So throw yourself into it again until you start swimming.
Yeah, what stands out for me, hearing you share your story, is how you have strived and have successfully created a routine for yourself, that that didn't come, right? Like it came through time and developing, but you have continuously strived to do that, to where your not just desire, but you actually putting work into creating that routine. You're wanting to overcome the circumstances is what helped you. It's actually getting into that sad routine for yourself at the time when you need it, and practicing, even though you had been going through those like ab reaction, if you will. You had those moments, but you were working through them by coming back onto your mat, finding
Hmm.
time to meditate afterwards. So
Hmm.
it's very powerful. And then the message of the thought that you're sharing about coming to you, that it was like that it's the messenger, um, inside, almost like telling you to be strong, keep going, keep moving, keep finding ways, look for ways, and keep going. And so I think it's very powerful to know how ultimately our growth happens from the hard work that we put
Hmm.
in the beginning, and then when we see the results, because the person you are today with all the wisdom, with knowledge, with experience um, is what allows those who you encounter to it allows you are able to provide that insight for them to help them um, on their journey as well, because you have walked the path. And
Yeah.
so I think it's something that truly stands out for me when I hear your story. Um, so can you tell and talk a little bit more about your life as a military spouse, and perhaps those parts that people do not see? What is it like to live life as a military spouse and raise a family?
Hmm. Um, the parts that people don't see is it's very lonely. It is not what people think it is. A lot of, I think, years ago, these shows came out portraying like the military life and what life was like for spouses, and like they get together for brunches and lunch all the time, and their kids play together. And I can honestly say, like, maybe on one hand, I could count how many times I've done that in the last 20 years of living this life. Um, it's very lonely, but it's beautiful in a sense that we get to visit all over the world sometimes and experience different cultures. And that is extremely hard because we never have family near us. So, those of us that have other family who can say, oh, my mom's coming over to watch the kids because I don't feel good, or, my mom's coming over to watch the kids because I have a doctor's appointment, or, we don't have that luxury. We take all the kids with us to every doctor's appointment. And if we're sick or not, it doesn't matter. You have to be a mom and you got to do what you got to do. So it's very trying and it can be lonely, but it is really beautiful with the experiences that you're able to have and provide for your kids, and the different cultures you get to experience and immerse yourself in. And I think it's just whether you choose to look at the glass half full or half empty.
Yeah.
And that's basically what's going to shape your life of doing this.
And how that this is something that has, like, I also constantly think about living like as a military spouse, like what you've mentioned. It seems like we are encouraging the social aspect through like different clubs and events, like get-togethers, but yet um, there's something that doesn't quite come together, right? Like, and when
Hmm.
we actually said, it was like, yeah, we have all this kind of maybe options, but there's still, like, when it comes to planning and
Hmm.
planning, like, let's say, move for your family, it's like it's just you, and it can get really lonely because when you are in charge of all those things, we also know that the other families are in the same situation. They have to
Right.
take care of their family. They have to plan like a PCS move, and so in that aspect, though we may and encounter friends who are there for us and support us, but there are really times, it depends where we are at, especially not having family close by, it can feel very lonely. When we speak about that strength, are there like maybe also like valuable lessons that you have learned of how do you address that loneliness? Like perhaps have you made attempts maybe to reach out to someone or change this kind of culture in your own way? Like what have you, what is your experience with that?
I so I particularly am not a very social person. I only because I crave depth
Hmm.
and I crave authenticity.
Yeah.
And something that I think people who are not in the military are not familiar with is many times we can attempt to socialize with other spouses. And when we go to these events, a lot of times other people just want to know about your husband
Yeah.
and what they do and how long they've been in and where they work. And so it's almost like I think within the community this may not just be the military community, it could be women in general. There's this need to grow into who we are so
Mhm.
that we are not just attaching ourselves to our service member so that so that when we are able to go to social gatherings, we can talk about things outside of what our spouse does at work or what their job is or how long they've been active duty or things like that. Because I think for me personally, that's where I have struggled a lot is that I don't want to go to social gatherings just to talk about my husband and his job. Like I am my own individual person. And I would like to know who these individual people are. But a lot of times especially if you're a younger mom, it's hard because your identity becomes interwoven with being a military spouse. And so I've always said I'm not a very good military spouse because I don't know all of the lingo and the abbreviations for things. And I have my life and he has his.
Have you
So yeah.
have you had moments in your life that actually some events or the instances where you have felt like you actually were connecting? What was what were those moments for you?
Yes, I think the honestly the only time in the 20 years of doing this has been when we were in Monterey, where I met you. Um, and that was during COVID times. And so nobody worked. And so there was no talk of, well, what does your husband do? Because right now, nobody's husband's doing anything. And it was a beautiful time because we just had bonfires on the street and barbecues on the street and all of us just really came together and I describe it as like the movie The Sandlot, where they have block parties out front and there's, just tables set up and food everywhere and kids running around everywhere. That's how it was. And it was so beautiful. And I will forever be grateful for my time there. But yeah, that was one instance. It was like these people became more your family than your blood family were.
During those times when we all were craving socialization, we actually
Yes.
made that happen, right? Like in that way.
Hmm.
So, wow, that's it's very insightful as well to know how um, when it's like a pandemic had to happen in order for us to for people to experience this, like, hey, this is what connection is. Because I recall us just moving there, and our children like were they didn't want to stay at home. And so trying to find friends outside, and they started to play like building forts and just it was just really cool to see how naturally they were craving that socialization, right? And due to this kind of natural circumstance, in a way, they were able to create something like that for themselves. So and how in the military, again, the life gets so busy that we just forget to create these opportunities for ourselves, right? Um, yeah. And so how about have you found, so we know that military marriages from the research that many military marriages struggle. There's a high rate of divorces, long separations, sometimes due to long separations. There's emotional distance that is created. And so what do you believe makes the difference when like between the military marriage that thrives and versus the one that struggles?
Mm, that's a great question. Um, it is definitely trying because we are dealt with a lot of circumstances that a lot of civilian families aren't dealt with. But that's not to say they don't have other struggles that we maybe are not dealt with, that we're not handed. Um,
Right?
I will say for my marriage personally, our bond really started growing deeper when the family, myself and my kids were put first. So the first 12 years of marriage and us being together, he was very much, the Marine Corps came first and foremost. And we took the hit on that and we paid the price for that. And that was really challenging and really hard. And me naturally being that fiery spirit, and the one that's going to fight for what I believe in, we had to have those hard conversations of, no, we're not going to keep just shadowing you around, being your shadow, following you wherever the Marine Corps sends you and expect to just be there, seen and not heard type thing. You just do as you're told and that's it. And so we had to have those difficult conversations. And thankfully, in one of those conversations, because there were many, one of those conversations, he was receptive and things kind of started flipping where if there were events at the kids' school or they were getting awards or something, it was no longer just me going. I let him know and he made it a point to say, nope, I'm going to leave work so that I can go and then I'll go back to work, but I'm going to be there. Or if one of the kids had specialist appointments from far away, he made it a point to let his command know, like, no, I have to be with my kids so that my wife can take this one to their specialist. And that's that. As opposed to, before that, it was always me just fighting for everything on my own. Um, so that really helped when it started. I think the service member themselves have to make that a point that at the end of the day, you're going to be replaced within the service. You're not going to be replaced in your family. So that, priorities, you have to put your family first.
Yes. Um, and perhaps so my husband and I, there was like also like came a time when I told him, I said, in a perhaps in a typical family, because there are families and spouses who travel weekly for job. But what the conversation we had is there were so many assignments to device deployments to where there's a chunk of life, a chunk of memories that we didn't get to create. Like it was taken away from us. It was a sacrifice that we have all kind of were part of. And so it was like almost that grieving that loss and
Hmm.
thinking about how do we recreate it? How do we keep connecting? How do we learn prioritize family on a deeper level so
Hmm.
we can nurture our family? And it's very interesting because I think when you have mentioned that there was this time, then there was a realization to, hey, we need, in order for this to succeed, I need to put my family first because at the end of the service, I will either have my family or I will not. So I
Hmm.
need to put the work into building my family. And I think that may be what is happening to with new service members coming into service, not understanding, not knowing, right? And then if those conversations are not being held, it's easy to sometimes pull the plug and say, well, it doesn't work for me. I will, right? And and the strength that within the family is actually to realize it and
Hmm.
start taking measures to say how do we start building what matters to us. So thank you for sharing this because what I'm understanding that's very common for many military families who continue to thrive
Mhm.
after having that realization, having that understanding, and taking proactive measures to build your family. And
Yeah.
so, if you would give an advice to a military couple, military family, to keep that connection strong during demands of military service, and of course there are many circumstances, but what advice would you give them? What are the most
Never
important?
never stop dating your spouse.
I love it.
So you have to keep dating. A lot of times there's this notion that if you're with somebody for so long, you don't talk anymore. And in this day and age of social media, you just see like two people go to bed at night and they're scrolling their phone and, there's a world in between them. And so one thing that I would just say is just never stop dating. And as soon as one of you feel that there is distance,
Yeah.
bring it back in because, I always tell my kids even too, relationships are like plants. If you ignore them, they're going to die. Like you have to tend to them. You have to nurture them. You have to water them. You got to feed them. Like you have to, as soon as you notice distance is happening, as it will, because life will be life, but you have to then make that conscious effort on both of your parts to pull it back in. And at the end of the day, love is a choice. It's not something that's just given where you're like, well, I don't love you anymore. No, at the end of the day, you're choosing not to love them. It's love is a choice. You have to choose each other at the end of every day. And you guys, the parents, are the foundation for the family. You're the role model for the family, for the kids that are growing up seeing that. As long as they see you two as a unit, and strong and on the same page, on the same team, then they'll follow suit. The kids will follow suit.
And do you have any to share any creative date nights that you and your spouse had? Because I think as military families, we do have to get creative sometimes, and maybe
Mm.
like we really start thinking outside the box. And so, do you have a few that you would like to share?
Yeah, I mean, a good one is once upon a time, we haven't done this in a while, but we used to have a jar of, he had like 10 different kinds of dates that he wrote down. I had 10 different kinds of dates that I wrote down, and we just put it in a jar. And when we knew we were having a date night, we would pick something out, and whatever that says, that's what we do. And that just helps to break up the mundane, because sometimes we're like, I don't want to go out to eat again. I don't want to go to the movies again. I personally have never been a fan of movie dates. Like and learning your partner's love language helps tremendously.
Yeah,
Knowing what means I feel loved to
yeah.
your significant other rather than what you think you're doing to show them that you love them, they might not be receiving it because that's not their love language. So understanding what the both of your love languages are. And then two, I think just little things like my husband and I have at a point, like one, I don't compromise family dinners. Family dinners are very important in the house to us where there are no phones allowed at the dinner table, and that is our time to talk. But also too, at the end of every day, like my husband and I just sit and there's no phones, there's no TV on, like we talk just face to face, talking about the day. But then even like little cute things, like we have a magnet on our fridge that has my husband and I's favorite song. So randomly he'll push it or I'll push it and we just dance because one of the beautiful things in the military life is we get to go to the military balls, right? And for a lot of us, that's the only time that we actually dance with our spouse is when we're at those balls. And so, yeah, we have a magnet with our song and one of us will just push it randomly. We know to stop whatever we're doing and we just dance. We
Love
get
it.
back into the moment. Yeah.
So beautiful, very unique. As a matter of fact, I haven't heard that one yet. So thank you. I think it's very
Yeah.
insightful, and perhaps others will adopt it as well, no matter if it's a military family or not. But
Yeah.
it's really neat. So can if and we touched bases again about your own personal practice, but can you tell us now, working in this field, teaching others yoga, tell me about your students. Tell me if you'd like to share where you teach, your like the yoga trainings that you have offered, um, maybe what typical week looks like for you.
So currently I'm teaching 13 to 14 classes a week. Um, I give myself only one day off, and that's on Wednesdays, but even that is only every other Wednesday because I teach at another studio that's about an hour away every other week. Um, but my classes are tend to be smaller
Mhm.
because these are people who want yoga for yoga, not the fitness aspect. I think right now we're in a day and age where there are certain fitness modalities that are trending right now, and yoga right now is not one of them. I think years ago, yoga very much was trendy, but that has kind of faded off. So it's beautiful because now I'm getting people who genuinely want to transform their life. They don't want to just become fit and muscular and strong. Like they want to become mentally and emotionally strong. They want to become grounded. They want to learn how to live in the present moment. And I'm so thankful for that. Um, I do offer teacher trainings that I do a lot of work virtually just because I try to keep myself within that military spouse community, and a lot of us are not living where someone else is. So virtual really provides myself and other people with the opportunity to get a quality education without pre-recorded videos and things like that. It's all live Zoom calls where we can be just like this in person, actually having relationships with one another. That back and forth feedback is wonderful. Um, and then just other workshops that I do and events that I do. I have on next Friday, I have a yoga at sunset coming up where we're just gonna all gather at one of the coffee bars here in the area that they have a really pretty deck overlooking the water. And we're gonna do our yoga there and just let go of winter and all of
Yeah.
the stagnant energy from winter.
Oh, exciting. And so if people wanted to get a hold of you, would like Instagram would be a good way. I'll post Instagram below the podcast when I post it on YouTube, so they will be able to find you there. Um, would that be the best way to contact you through the
Yes.
Instagram?
So there's Instagram and then there's also my email. And
Okay.
the email is just the number zero,
Okay.
the spiritual way is zero at
Okay.
gmail.com. I'm more active with my email. With social media, I have taken all of social media off my phone. So now if I'm on social media, it's because I am being present with social media and my mission there while I'm online. But Instagram as well, the same username, zero, the spiritual way, zero on Instagram. You can find me there too. But
So
yeah,
I'll mention both of those resources then below. And then um, I know you're offering yoga teacher trainings,
yes.
200-hour yoga teacher trainings, and also, like you mentioned, one-on-one virtual sessions.
Yeah.
So if people want to connect with you, this is how they can do that. And so that was my question of how they can connect with you. And then I like at the end of the podcast, um, I like to offer to do this. It's called rapid fire. So just kind of questions where you get to choose one or the other, and perhaps maybe share why you chose if you'd like. So it's just kind of a change of pace here.
Okay.
So morning or evening wind down.
Evening.
Okay.
Hmm.
Hot yoga or cool studio.
Ooh, I'm How hot is the hot yoga?
It was like
I
105 degrees.
I think like 90 degrees I'm good with. Anything other than that, no. And cold, I'm allergic to the cold. So
Okay, somewhere in between.
somewhere in between, yes.
Yoga mat or barefoot on grass?
Oh, barefoot on grass for sure. Uh-huh.
Yin yoga or vinyasa?
Vinyasa. I love movement.
So, meditation or breath work?
Meditation.
One yoga myth you want to bust once and for all.
Oh, that you can't do yoga because you're not flexible. That's not, yeah,
We
anybody can
hear
do
that a
it.
lot.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
One habit every person should start today for their mental health.
Mm. Getting off social media. I know it's not the most popular, but let go of social media.
Clear the space for yourself.
Yes,
Notice
yes,
everything around you.
yes.
One book, teacher, or mentor, or you can share book and a mentor, but who changed the way you see yoga?
Mm.
Talk about why too.
Oh, that's a tough one. I would have to say The Heart of Yoga by Desikar. Yeah.
And what does wellness mean to you in one sentence?
Wellness is well-rounded through mind, body, breath, and spirit, all being on the same page.
Thank you. Is there a final message, something that you felt maybe we haven't touched base on that you would like to listeners today to know, especially those who are healing or struggling or searching for
Mm-hmm.
something?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I thought about this when you asked about one myth. And I should have said, no, the bigger myth is that people always say, I'm not good at yoga. And so they don't do it. I'm not good at yoga. I don't. So I don't do yoga because I'm not good at it. And that is mind-boggling to me because it's like shutting the door before even walking in to see what's in the room. Like you just shut it. And there's so much vastness within your own subconscious. There's so much beauty within your own energy that you carry that if you allow yourself to get through those trial and error parts, and if you allow yourself to not be defeated by the uncomfortable sides of yoga, because sometimes yoga does hurt too. And I know a lot of us, we say, oh, this hurts. I can't do it. I have to pull back. No, the only way out is through. You can't get around your traumas. You can't get around your struggles. You can't get around your stresses. You just have to get through them. And yoga is a beautiful way to help you get through them.
Yeah. Amber, I found this time that you and I shared, and there's so much more. I feel like there's so much more that we could have, continued talking and discovering. And so maybe we'll get to do that again. But I just want to say thank you so, so much for truly taking your time to join, to share with others. I think the more we share, the wisdom that we have gained with others, we may just change someone else's life. And so I thank you for offering this to us today. Um, and just appreciate your honesty, appreciate your story, appreciate your heart. And I just hope that people who find you, that there will be so many lives that continue to heal and change as you continue to share your wisdom with them as well. And thank you for being such a valuable well teacher, yoga teacher, just a valuable, just very thank you for being my personal friend. Even though I know we live far away, I feel like it's that connection, right, that we have and continue to have. And it's just very nice to hear and to know that there are um, s- uh, same-minded like people who are also striving to help community, to make this world a better place, right? Help others heal. And thank you for being you, for bringing yourself today to this time, to this podcast, and wishing you everything, everything the best. Continue to flourish and thrive, and share the strengths that you are learning, and share your resilience with others.
Thank you so, so much, so much for this opportunity, for bringing this platform to people who hopefully everyone is going to hear it when they're meant to hear it. So thank you so much for putting everything out there that you're doing and your selflessness of constantly giving into the world. And I wish nothing but the very best for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And so, wherever you are in the world, keep moving, keep
Yes.
growing, and honor your journey. Thank you
Yes.
very much. And until next time, thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
All right, my friend. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.